From the National Broadcasting Company newsroom in San Francisco, we bring you the NBC's expert on Far Eastern affairs, Up and Close.
Hello, Americans. On the evening of the first day of declared war with Japan, let's take a glimpse over the moonlit Pacific. About 7,000 miles wide, the southern sector. About 3,000 miles wide at the top. About 8,000 miles from Japan around the coast of Asia to India. Beginning this war picture, let's say that we're very thankful that we've had no news of any surprises at such an important point, for instance, as Panama. Apparently it's all right. We trust that nothing will happen, but you may be sure the American forces are on guard lest something does. In Honolulu, we have news that things are quiet. Although the sound of guns have been heard, perhaps there's a naval battle going on not far from the coast. The connecting islands, which we've used to get from Honolulu to the Philippines, apparently are under Japanese control. They claim they have them under their flag, and they're boasting about it. We don't know about that. Anyhow, the Japanese fleet seems to be at the moment supreme in that area. The two actions that seem to be of greatest importance right now are the actions around Hong Kong, where the British are being very hard-pressed. 3 attacks have been made on Hong Kong by air, and now an infantry attack is beginning on Hong Kong from the mainland of China. You know, Hong Kong is a little island that runs up to a peak about 3,000 feet high, and this cone, which sits in the blue ocean, is separated from the mainland of China by just a short stretch of water. You get on the ferry and go across to what's called Kowloon. It only takes about 3 minutes or 5 on the ferry. This Kowloon area extends back a mile or 2, and then you hit the Chinese border. The Japanese are pressing from Chinese territory, that is, coming down from Canton, which they have occupied for a long time, and fighting their way through the Kowloon settlement, which is also occupied, owned by the British in a sense. And from there, of course, they will try to get across the narrow strip of water to Hong Kong. We're told that the Hong Kong defenses are putting up a very brave defense, and that they're full of pep and energy, and so far show no indication of any intention to give in. Then there's another important action that we don't know so much about yet going on around Singapore. I've often talked to you about the importance of the Kra Isthmus. The Isthmus of Kra is that narrow place, you look on your map and you'll see it, on the Malay Peninsula, where the peninsula is perhaps about 25 miles wide. I've walked across it one time. The eastern shore of the isthmus belongs to Siam, just a strip of it there. And on the other side, you hit the southern end of Burma. It's a very strategic point. Just south of the Isthmus of Kra are the great tin mines of Kuala Lumpur. And on up the Burma Way, a little way, you come to the great English port of Penang, which is the center of English power in South Burma. And then, of course, you go down day and a night drive by car when you're taking it easy on that beautiful road, and you come to Singapore. We're also told that the Japanese are pressing over the marshy country, a terrible country to fight over, full of growth that comes up through the seawater, trying to get into the naval base at Singapore. The naval base can hardly be entered from the west side, the east side rather, and the west side is protected by a great fort. And so the news bears out that the Japanese are not making very much progress on this Singapore sector. We still wonder what the main Japanese strategy is. Are they simply putting up this huge hit-and-run effort to baffle us, waiting for some masterstroke to take place, perhaps to come from Germany, or perhaps to take place from the main Japanese fleet that hasn't yet shown itself, or what is the thing that we're to watch for? Let's keep alert.
From the San Francisco newsroom, you've just heard from NBC's expert on the Far Eastern affairs and the Pacific, Up and Close. We take you now to New York.
Now here's Earl Godwin speaking from the newsroom in Washington.
Good evening, folks.
As I walked downtown this evening, the thought struck me that civil Washington is going about its biggest, boomiest Christmas shopping with the population teeming with extra scores of thousands of new people to Washington who came here for defense, but who will stay for war and victory. But official Washington tonight is heavy and serious and tired, as it realizes that America is in the World War with a terrific blow on the chin to start with. Tomorrow night, however, the President goes on the radio networks at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to tell what's happened, maybe to explain in greater detail and graver detail just what to expect. America is now lined up side by side in a declared shooting war with its former Lend-Lease partner Britain, also at war with the same Asiatic members of the Axis. Japanese are claiming tremendous sweeps to victory. It can be expected that the American story will be adequately presented, at least tomorrow night, but at the same time now, the attitude here is not to play down the seriousness of this first encounter. And one who must be nameless has expressed the personal view that perhaps after all, this first surprise attack and its dark results to the United States might have a constructive lesson to show that the Japanese Navy is no pushover. And parenthetically, isn't it odd that up to now, at least for a year or two, all of the speculation and the expert advice on the Japanese situation was that the military clique wanted the war and the Japanese Navy did not want the war, fearing that they would not be a match for the United States Navy, and I think possibly the United States Navy from now on is going to show them that their anxiety in that respect had some basis. But there are those here in Washington, and not only in private life, but in official life, who want to know why that Japanese surprise attack was a surprise, and why so apparently successful. There have been rumors, mere rumors, wild rumors, loud rumors all day long, that a very high naval officer in the Pacific area would be or has been relieved of duty. But there's not the slightest evidence that such a rumor has any foundation. At the same time, the Navy and the Army have clamped down not a censorship, but they just simply won't tell you anything. As one naval officer told me on the telephone a little while ago, he said, I couldn't even tell you the time. But the feeling grows that something that must be done to find out about this thing, and it finds expression in the determination of a Michigan congressman, Representative John Dingell of the 15th District, who will tomorrow in the House of Representatives demand that there be an inquiry of a court-martial nature of high military and naval officers to find out why it all happened. The Army and Navy, says Dingell, were caught off guard, if not sound asleep in the same bed. Why were not our forces ranging far offshore, he wants to know, to stave off this wide attack? And he gets out a statement, and he will follow it up tomorrow in the House, and in the statement, and possibly in what he will say in Congress tomorrow, he says this: it seems incredible to me as a layman that with full emergency having been declared weeks and weeks ago, that preparations were not made to meet any eventuality, and that our forces were not in evidence to meet them far offshore. Fortunately for us, the Japs used only their planes. Had they the courage and foresight to attack in full force with their battle fleet, it is entirely within the realm of possibilities that they would have captured the stronghold while it slumbered. I'm still quoting Mr. Dingell. The Navy seemingly tied up their battle wagons every Saturday noon in more or less routine manner and went to town until Monday morning. And when the Japanese arrived, there were not men enough to man the guns, and the Air Corps was seemingly in the same position. The American people have the right to know, and I, as a member of Congress, demand to know who is to blame. And then Dingell goes on to list a large number of high-ranking naval officials headed by Major General H.H. Arnold, Deputy Chief of Staff, going on down to Major General Fred L. Martin, Chief of the Hawaiian Air Force, to determine guilt or innocence in the matter of the Hawaiian air defenses. Now, it may be that Mr. Dingell has something there, or it may not be. He said he's going to try it. He told me on the telephone not long ago. I asked him if he thought he could get time to make this demand for a court-martial. He said, oh, yes, he could get the time. And if the Army and the Navy, or the government generally, didn't see fit to follow his suggestion for a court-martial or an inquiry, Mr. Dingle says that he will introduce a resolution, which of course it has to be passed by both the House and the Senate, demanding a court-martial. I do not believe that he's going to get anywhere right now because typical of the opposition is the retort of Democratic leader Senator Connolly of Texas, who says, briefly, having been told of Mr. Dingle's court-martial inquiry, Connolly said, we have much more important things to attend to right now. At any rate, the American operations continue. A number of Japanese planes and submarines have been destroyed, and that was the statement at the White House this morning, and it stood all day long without any amplification or anything else, and that is all we know. We may get a full report. I think we will probably get a nearly complete documentation of the story tomorrow evening when the Commander-in-Chief, President Roosevelt, speaks to you, and the President will lay the case directly before the people in what I understand will be a 30-minute address by radio of the fireside chat character and variety. And for the time being, at least, the White House is GHQ, General Headquarters, for our side of the war, as far as you and I are concerned. And the President and his faithful, thoughtful, experienced Secretary, Stephen T. Early, will do the informing until further notice. Mr. Early said tonight something that makes you know that the Axis claims are a bit boastful. You know, we've been hearing of these German and Axis claims when they affected somebody else over in Europe for a long, long time, and now we have them right on our doorstep. And Steve says there's just so much German hot air about some of the stuff. He also, that is Mr. Early, again declared tonight that the official view here is that Germany pushed Japan into this war with the idea that such an engagement would deplete our Lend-Lease aid to Britain and China and other democracies fighting against the aggressors. Well, that would seem to be reasonable. But Mr. Early brushes that aside again as just so much German hot air. And not long after that statement, the government served notice through the Supply and Allocations Board, Vice President Wallace doing the speaking, that from now on it's an all-out effort to win the war. No longer is this effort being camouflaged under the almost worn-out term defense. It's now no longer a defense effort. It is a victory effort with a big V. And they figure tonight it's going to cost at least $150 billion. Odd bits of news appear. The whole staff of 60 people in the Japanese embassy are interned in their own house. And some enterprising reporter dug up the fact that they got $16 worth of lamb for the whole 60 people tonight. And that's all from Washington at this time.